Here.
Lund,
Here.
Bentley,
Here.
Holmberg.
Here. Okay, we've got some city council minutes from September 27th. Take a motion for,
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Abstain.
Lund,
Abstain.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
yes. Okay, we have city council work session minutes from October 25th.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, and then October 25th, city council minutes.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item number 4, adoption of agenda.
Move to adopt.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, before we go to presentation, can we verify is Danielle on? She was,
Yes, I am here, Mayor.
all right, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so item number 5, presentation, pavement condition survey presentation. We have Greg Shorling, I think is going to present to us. Why don't you come forward and welcome and thank you for coming tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me here. So I am Craig Schilling. I'm Vice President of Transmap Corporation. We're the ones that had the fancy truck, if anybody saw it, driving your roads and doing a pavement assessment. The truck does a lot more than that. We also have LiDAR and cameras on the truck for assets that we extracted for you too, but this will focus on the pavement management, this presentation, but go into a little bit about the assets too. Is this my control?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. We're gonna go over a bunch of things. It's gonna be kind of high level here, and you guys can ask me questions. I've been working for the company, been doing this for 27 years, so pretty much drove the truck, processed data. I've done pretty much everything for this company, so hopefully there's nothing you can't stop me on. It'll be a first though. We got what I call updated technology, best technology out there. You'll see it's a laser crack measurement system. It actually has lasers that shoot into the pavement, get the length, the width, and the depth of cracks, so we can do analysis on it. We use what's called a pavement condition index calculation. It's ASTM standard D6433 for all you geeks. We've been doing this as a company for 27 years. We have Missouri customers around, obviously you guys, and we've done a bunch of stuff over in the St. Charles area. A little kind of high level on your roads. We drove centerline miles, which is basically one direction. It's 99.05, but we actually drove every through lane in your network. So we really surveyed almost 194 miles, 1,138 segments. So, it's a average size project for us. We put together a bunch of reports for you guys. These are like just standard reports that come out of the system, basically telling you how many cracks you have in your network, where the cracks are. This has all been given to the public works, and the lane miles we drove, we gave them a spreadsheet that says intersection, what their PCI score was. We'll go over that, what PCI means again in a second. And it's kind of just some kind of high level reports that say when we drove, what we drove, because everything's timestamped. So if anything comes up, we always have timestamp. The cameras are timestamp, the vehicle's timestamp, but when things were at that distress, or if even down to if you saw a manhole cover on the road and it's not there now, we have images of all your roadways, kind of like Google. This is our back of our fancy truck, because that's the working end. We have the camera system up top, which is a 360-degree view. It records all the imagery at 5 meter spacing down the road. The 2 boxes that hang out, those are the waves that shoot into the ground. We have ground-based LiDAR that's going. Think of the truck as just a big fancy tape measuring device that measures things as it goes by. We also have real-world GPS coordinates in the truck, so everything we extract, it lays on the Earth's surface where it actually goes. So this is your network that we loaded up. This is our web-based tracking. It's all green now because, well, except there's a few black roads. It's all green because we drove everything. The ones that are dark gray or black are roads that didn't exist or were not drivable. Trust me, GIS maps, there's always a couple roads that really aren't there, never got built or got abandoned a long time ago. This right here is a picture of a web viewer we have. So when you click that dot, this image pops up. It pops up into a viewer. These guys have access to it in Public Works. We have it. We also deliver all the raw data to you guys. You guys have this in your own GIS system that you're building. This right here is basically raw data before it's processed into this PCI standard. This is just telling you where you have like population density of cracks. The red areas are where you have more cracks than the green areas. And there's also areas where it's gray. That means we didn't pick up any cracks in those areas. Our system collects 4 by 10 meter boxes back to back to back down the road. We drove every through linear network in both directions. So here we go. Here's the official PCI calculation, pavement condition index. It's a rating scale of 0 to 100. They have these small categories of 0 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 40. Honestly, there's not a lot of difference. The road is in bad condition, basically 0 to 30, right? And then it starts that you can't put a Band-Aid on those roads to fix them, right? That's what we say. And in the middle, you can start putting some treatments on, some Band-Aids, maybe some chip seals and things like that. Then we're up in the green area. You might just be doing something like, crack seals because we get winter in these areas. So not on a crack seal before it goes into winter, something like that. But this PCI scale is basically Army Corps of Engineers, ASTM, and American Public Works Association. They all use this as their typical rating scale. So here's your guys' roads. You're rated overall. I mean, this is every road weighted average. Every segment of the network was a 63.3. Obviously, you have roads that are better and you have roads that are worse, but it averaged out. So it's in a fair category. And it's in the kind of the mid to upper of the fair category. So like I said, you do have roads that are starting to, once it gets down to that 55 to 50 range, those segments, they start to drop a little quicker because they already have their stresses on. The stresses are just getting bigger and bigger, and they start dropping faster. So where you are is in a fair category, which is pretty average basically for this area. And then this is kind of the maps we built. So the maps that look like here, it's the red, yellow, green. We delivered maps and raw data into your digital GIS system so they can look at this thing and start kind of getting an idea of, hey, are we going to start working on these red roads that are in the 0 to 10s? Or are we going to actually put money towards the ones that are dropping in those kind of satisfactory categories before? Because it can't get any worse. They're bad. They can't get any worse. You eventually have to go back and do your backlog. But how do you keep decent roads in good condition longer? It's kind of an example. So this is our system. So that top is an image, right? That's visual. That's what you see. The bottom is maybe things you can't see. This is what our system picks up. It picks up all the cracks. It color codes the cracks. This is a street that's your network that's in decent shape. It's in the good category. That's just kind of, so it has a few cracks on it. It maybe has some weathering on it. And this is an example of what kind of a mess would look like. So this is a street that has what we call a lot of alligator cracking on it. It's a bottom up distress. This is a street that is basically couldn't put a Band-Aid on. It's got too much subsurface distress going on that's showing through. And that would be something that'd be a categorization of like a mill and overlay project. That bottom, what you're seeing in the bottom is actually the laser. It creates an image and then it also measures all the cracks. So we categorize all the cracks in the polygons that show all the cracks in there. That's kind of what the system picks up. And that actual layer right there, you guys had that. It's in your GIS. So when these guys want to look at a street and say, hey, this street's a 75, what does it look like? So they can bring this up and say, oh, there's maybe one little area we can go out and patch and we can improve that street, but not have to do a mill and overlay. This is a layer that we give you guys this information so you guys can make decisions based on the information we're giving you. We also did a curb and a sign inventory. We did a limited sign inventory of MBTCD and basically location. Curbs is basically location and what a curb type would be, like basically a curb and gutter. These maps you're not going to be able to read very well from where they are, but we delivered maps and GIS to this. So now you guys can look at, hey, we're starting to build layers on top of this. We know where our signs are. We did a pavement study. We know where our curbs are. So when we go out and we want to mill and overlay, we can figure out what curb types are there. And if we need to, do some more work on the curbs or not, or actually, does it have a gutter attached to it or not? This is a sign layer. I can't read that from here. So basically you have 5,575 total signs in your network. Obviously, the more important categories of signs is a regulatory. Those are your stop signs, yield signs. Unfortunately, parking signs are also regulatory, but they're, this kind of gives an idea of where the signs are, how many we have out there. We did not do a condition assessment on them yet, but that could be coming. So that's kind of what we did for you. Now, the potential next steps could be, hey, do we want to do a work plan and start saying, hey, if I had X amount of money, what can we do with it? If I had basically your current budget, we're going to start losing ground on it. Do like a 5-year budget scenario. What's the value of your network, the cost to fix everything? How do we maintain where we are? Those are all standard things we would do for like a work plan report. Getting the true area of pavement, kind of measuring, hey, how much actual asphalt do we have out there, curb to curb or concrete, depending on the road. And then additional assets, which I'll show you too, is, let me go back to this. So the true area would be, how much asphalt we have on there makes the system so you can do, hey, what's it actually going to cost to replace this? Additional assets would be like collecting things like crosswalks, stripings, markings, sidewalks, sidewalk failure locations, more sign attribution like good, fair, poor condition and post type, collecting ADA ramps and saying, do I have a truncated dome? Do I not have a truncated dome? What colors do I have out there? All this data we've already collected. We just haven't sucked that out of the system yet. But it's all there waiting to be extracted when things are needed. It's probably like more of a public safety things when you're looking at for like your crosswalks, are they identifiable, your stripings, your markings and that kind of stuff. So these are all things that are possible. We wouldn't have to come out and redrive. We already have all the data. We just have to pull it out of the system. It's kind of a high level of what we did for you guys. Any questions?
Were you guys able to study the subsurface to different types of subsurface based on the area of Warrensburg?
Subsurface, we do surface cracking. So everything's surface distress. We know what's going on a little bit with a subsurface by the type of cracks we collect. So like an alligator cracking would be the bottom up crack, or rutting would also have indications of something failure in the sub base. We do not do coring. We're not that kind of engineering firm. We do basically assessments of the roads and what condition they're in. Because we feel like coring is something that's going to put added cost to the project. And if you're going to do, if it's scheduled to do a mill and overlay because of the type of cracking, well, you're going to go down and check that anyways once you start milling and overlay.
Okay.
So to keep cost effectiveness, that would be something that would be done later on.
I was just wondering because I didn't know if we're going to replace a road, if the subsurface made a difference on,
Well, it does, when these guys go to mill and overlay, they kind of, we were just talking about that, where some roads that came from, that got turned over to you just have a dirt sub base and just, 1.5 inches asphalt on top, right? Well, of course, that road's gonna react very differently than some of the other roads that are around, so. And you'll see that in the type of cracking that is collected.
And so do you offer recommendations on the type of replacement? Or?
Yeah, so mill and overlays we were talking about the chip seal program that you guys are running right now too. And yeah, those are things that in the work planning that we could do, it would suggest what roads would be best off doing chip seals and what roads would be best off doing mill and overlays and things like that.
Okay.
So that's, go ahead.
you had mentioned some other data and information that you had access to that was in the system, for instance, the true area, I think was one of them. Does the city, is that included in the report and the information that you gave the city with this report, or is that an additional service that?
Some of those were like the curbs and signs was included in this initial round, but some like the crosswalks, marking, striping, true area, that kind of stuff. No, that wasn't included in the original assessment. That was we responded to an RFP that was out, it wasn't in there. But those are things that, we don't have to come back out and incur the cost to drive the roads to do. We've already done that. All the roads are driven. We have enough data to pull out that infrastructure, even down to, getting like drop inlets and manholes and things like that, which you guys do have a great layer of that. But if you didn't, we could also get that kind of information out. Anything you see with the LiDAR we drove with the camera system, which is photogrammetry, we could actually pull out 1 to 2 foot accuracy, but more importantly, lay it on GIS and give you guys an idea of like where it is and what condition it's in. So sidewalks, curbs, AV ramps, like I was saying, all the stripings and markings, that kind of stuff. But we did do curbs for you guys, and we did do the sign layer. Okay.
So Danielle, in conjunction with this, about how long to take to develop some of the work plans to use the data?
Talking to me?
I asked Danielle.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hang on. While you're here, I wanted to,
Oh, I forgot.
She's on
I forgot
Zoom.
she's like, "What are you talking to?" She's right there.
Okay. No, I apologize. I wasn't able to meet the Transmap group today. I know they came down and they talked to staff and did some conversations with staff. We will start using this information immediately to put together our street pavement management plan for this year. But, we were really waiting for all this to come out. We're also still waiting to see what happens with the raise grant and what we're going to be able to do with the bridge over 50 to kind of see what funds we're going to have available to do some of these streets that you can see are failing and some of those streets that need to be addressed very quickly. One of the things that we've talked about as staff is, and I believe I heard Mr. Shorling say this, but it's important to take care of our streets that are in fair condition and to take care of those streets and extend the life of those streets. Bad streets look ugly for a long time, but good streets tend to decline in condition very quickly. So we'll start using this information immediately and hopefully have a plan together with council very soon. We have that $17 million that the citizens were kind enough or gracious enough to give us. So we want to make sure that we're doing something with it, but we're really just waiting to see what happens with the bridge over 50 before we commit to anything.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much for coming, spending time with us tonight. I know it's an evening, it's your job, but it's still an evening, so we appreciate you coming and visiting.
Thanks for
in
having me
person.
out. I love talking about what I do. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, public hearing. So I have opened a public hearing for fiscal year 2022 sewer rates. Is there any, Marcella, you want to talk to it or?
As you remember, the HDR was hired to do that annual study and presented to council on the 21st about the recommendations for the rate increase. And so the public hearing basically gives everyone an opportunity to speak to that. Just to give some highlights, the fiscal year 22 rate increases will go into effect with usage beginning January 1. And those first bills, I think, are about the 17th of January. And then the only things that changed similar to last year is the volume charges for the residential customers with usage over 200 cubic feet, and then the volume charge for our commercial customers as well. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, but it's just an opportunity for anyone who wishes to speak.
Okay. Item number 7, other business. 7.1, the Stevenson Fund request for a Christmas store. Got you down as presenter, Marcel.
So the Stevenson's Fund is one of our trust funds that we have the opportunity to utilize the interest earnings provided in that fund. And as everyone knows, interest earnings have not been the best in the world. And last year, the Christmas store asked, or at least was awarded $1,200. Current policy has a maximum of $1,000. So that's the reason why it's brought before council, because the recommendation is to again give them $1,200 to help the needy families as part of the Christmas store program. So it's basically a request to, go over that current policy limit by that $200 for $1,200. And they provided a letter, which is in your packet, where they have planned to spend approximately $20,000. So our $1,200 is just a piece of what they're working towards to make the Christmas store a success like it has been in the past.
Move to approve the request as presented.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. All right, item 7.2, election letter, public notice, city council candidacy statements for 2 open seats being accepted December 7th through December 28th. Karen?
They have moved the dates up and shortened the time period. So we're just kind of bringing it before you all to make sure that you guys are aware of. The notification does have to go out to the public for the filing period.
And other than the dates, this people that want to run, just contact you. so-
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
it'll be, of course, from December 7th to December 28th, Monday through Friday at City Hall, 102 South Holden. In the city clerk's office, it'll be first come, first served.
The ballot list, so the order of
Yep.
the ballot.
Yep. The order of the filing will determine the candidate listing on the ballot. And we will be closed on Friday, December 24th for Christmas Eve.
Do we need to approve that? Okay. All right, so item 7.3, resolution amending financial management policies to include a grant management policy. Marcella?
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. This is a grant management policy. There was some grant pieces that were done as far as management by an administrative memorandum a few years back. And basically what this does is this puts in writing what we do for the most part anyhow. And because, as you all know, we are receiving over $4 million in the next between this year and next year to spend of federal dollars. And the federal grant awards require us to make sure that we are following specifically the 2 CFR section 317 to section 200-327. So this policy basically puts that in writing. And so we can prove to them that, yes, we have adopted these rules and regulations. We are following these rules and regulations. And because these rules and regulations require them to be in writing, they are now in writing that we are adopting and following these. I know it's come up recently and some fire grant money that we've received, we've put into process and procedures, even how the asset's being used, how it's being stored, how it's being, how it will potentially be disposed of. And so because federal dollars are audited, not only in single audit processes for fiscal year 22 and 23 for expenditures over $750,000, but they will be audited as a full grant award as part of the American Rescue Plan monies. Again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
This is all the requirements for SAM and everything like that.
Correct. So yes, we have to, SAM is the system awards management system, system awards management.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so that piece is required for us to be a part of that. And that allows the transactions to become ACH. So we receive that money via ACH. And again, that's the tracking system, and that there's like financials that are uploaded to that, and an annual certification that's done each year for us to maintain that process and that.
Okay. I remember all that.
Good. It's helpful for you to know that. Any other questions?
For a motion?
Move to approve resolution as presented. Sorry.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. 7.4, resolution approving a preliminary plat of Copper Ridge. Presented by Barb Carroll. Is Barb here?
I am on Zoom, Mayor.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me attend remotely this evening. We have in front of you this evening a copy of the preliminary plat of Copper Ridge. This is a new residential subdivision that would be on the north side of Hill Lake Road in the area that is south of the Maple Grove Elementary School and west of Ridgeview Drive. It is currently owned by the Swishers, and the Fryco Development Company, represented by Leo Costas and Rick Fry, have proposed this residential subdivision for that property. This was on your agenda a month ago and was continued at that time, and so it's now coming back. Since the last time it was on your agenda, the developers have revised the preliminary plat. So if you recall looking at it a month ago in the packet, it does look different this evening. It did go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission last week because the changes were substantial from what they had originally recommended approval of in October. And so again, a week ago with the revised plat, they did recommend approval with several conditions, and those have been included in the resolution that is before you for consideration this evening. Some of those conditions require a change to the preliminary plat document itself, and others are just putting them on notice as further plans are developed in the future for the final plat and the construction documents. Some of the changes that have occurred in the last month to this subdivision as it's been designed, it was reduced from 152 lots down to 149 lots. Still continues to be 4 phases in the future. So we would anticipate seeing 4 final plats come forward in the following years. They did remove 2 connecting streets and create 5 cul-de-sacs, which makes a total of 7 cul-de-sacs for the entire subdivision. And it created a jog in the street, Grace Avenue, such that it creates now a new street called Gwen Lane. And again, it maintained those 4 phases. Now the actual location of the phases and how many lots were included in each phase and how the phases are laid out changed from the last time it was in your packet. At this point, staff would recommend approval of the preliminary plat and the resolution that you have in front of you with those conditions as they were required by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know Mr. Costas is there in the audience, and he or I would be happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve as presented with staff recommendations.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 8, first reading only ordinance. 8.1, an ordinance establishing sewer base rate charges. Marcella, you're back.
Good evening. Thank you. As the public hearings discussed, the sewer rates are to be effective January 1 of 2022 for that usage beginning timeframe. And again, the volume charges is what changes for residential customers. It goes up by 50 cents per 100 cubic feet, anything over 200 cubic feet. And the commercial sewer rates go up again with the volume charges to $5.73 per 100 cubic feet for the commercial customers. This is for first reading to be effective January 1.
Thank you. Okay, 8.2, an ordinance placing a lien on 340 Hawthorne Boulevard for the purpose of abating a public nuisance. Barb?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second year in a row the city has had that property mowed. It is owned by Soft Solution Inc., better known as Omar Dewan, and it is part of the parking lot on the south side of Hawthorne Boulevard there in front of Marshall's. It is not a part of the property that Marshall's and Central Bank own and operate. It is a separate and distinct lot owned by Mr. Dewan. The city had an administrative hearing earlier this year and gave proper notice, and then had the city's mowing contractor mow that property. This ordinance would give staff in the city the ability to have it recorded with the county recorder's office, and at a date in the future, hopefully recoup the city's costs in having that mowed, which this year totaled $1,143.70. I would recommend first reading only this evening.
Okay. Any questions? All right, moving on to item number 9, we have a first and second reading ordinance 9.1. First and second reading of an ordinance amending fiscal year 2021 budget. Marcella?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as we wrap up the fiscal year 21 prior to completion of a final audit report, there's just some minor businesses that need to be taken care of to make sure that we're in compliant and there's no fund that has overexpended what has been authorized by council. So, and presented in the exhibits is some changes to the general fund in relationship to the lodging tax and the transfer to the vehicle equipment replacement fund. As we talked about during budget development, that vehicle equipment replacement fund right now is not a funded source to utilize. We have been unable to identify annual dollars that would be quasi like lease payments from each of the divisions that would go into that fund that would then replace vehicles. Right now, we've talked about for the 22 budget moved vehicle replacements into the capital improvement sales tax money. So there was a small amount in that, and because there's dollars that's held in that fund, there's expenses related to it for banking. So that's the primary reason for the changes to the vehicle replacement account. And then the monies, increased monies to the lodging tax naturally increased the monies that were spent out to the Visitors Bureau. So we needed to amend those pieces to mirror what the Visitors Bureau board has adopted. As we've talked about it numerous times, you'll hear lots more about is the American Rescue Plan Fund. You know, we adopted just now the grant management policy to participate in that process, and we've received those monies. So those monies were received prior to the end of the fiscal year. And because of the audit requirements and the tracking pieces and the reporting that is going to be required as part of that plan, we have segregated and put that into its own fund. And as we amend the 22 budget to spend that money, you'll see more information about the American Rescue Plan. But it's just an amendment to record the revenue into that particular fund that was established. Exhibit C is the vehicle replacement account, which is what I just discussed. The debt service fund, I picked up an incorrect interest account for the street sweeper. And so we didn't have budgeted enough money to transfer to make that payment. So the actual transfers were made, and we cannot, we're not allowed to overexpend what has been budgeted in a particular fund. So that created that piece of for the debt service fund. And those are monies moved from various funds into that particular account to track all of our debt service payments. And finally, just more for your information than anything else, because council doesn't have any control over the Visitors Bureau budget. You've been provided the information that the Visitors Bureau had already adopted for fiscal year 21. And so those are recorded and part of our financial statements. So again, that's a piece that we try to include in all of our budget as you adopt those for the entire city. Recommend approval, respectfully ask that we waive the rules so that we can have this adopted prior to final field work for audit to avoid some dings that will show up in the audit report if we don't have it done before they come back in for final field work. Questions?
Move so the bill be passed second reading by title.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance 5655 concerning the adopted fiscal year 2021 annual budget. This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, we've got item 9.2, first and second reading of an ordinance for the purchase of Innovair blowers. Danielle?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your flexibility in allowing me to attend City Council via Zoom this evening. Tonight, we have an ordinance in front of you. We originally approved the purchase of 2 sets of blowers in June 28th. We had 1 set of blowers going in at the east plant and 1 set of blowers going in at the west plant. That project came in significantly over budget. And so if you'll recall, we actually transferred approximately $200,000 to cover the expense of that project. We know that due to the age of these blowers that we need to replace the second set at each plant. And because of, with Innovair equipment, we know we want to have the same equipment that we have at both plants. We want to make sure that both blowers are the same equipment. So JCI had agreed to hold the price of the blowers for us until this fiscal year, till the beginning of this fiscal year, so that we could get that same pricing and move forward with the second set of blowers at each plant. We have planned to use the American Rescue Plan Act funds with this. If you'll recall, we just passed a resolution for those that grant management policy, and that was the reason the business may have seemed out of order on this agenda. We wanted to make sure that we had that grant management policy in place prior to allocating any funds of the American Rescue Plan Act. But the 2 sets of blowers will cost approximately $423,000. The installation of this project will be bid out separately. As I mentioned, Innovair had held this price for us until October 31st. If we do not move forward with this purchase this time, we do expect the price of the equipment to go up approximately 40%. Additionally, we are expecting a 12 to 18 week delivery time, but they just, with the supply chain issues that we've been experiencing throughout the United States at this time and the world due to COVID, they anticipate if we delay this purchase that we would be looking at 25 to 40 weeks delivery on the second set of blowers at each plant. We respectfully request this goes a first and second reading due to the timeline of needing to get this equipment purchased from JCI.
No, I don't know. Move it for second reading by title. Right.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager and city clerk to accept a proposal for the purchase of Innovair blowers from JCI Industries, Inc. in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri. This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item number 10, appearances of the council not listed on the agenda. Okay, none. All right, item number 11, mayoral appointments. Want to appoint Mike Greaves to the Board of Adjustment. I did speak with him and he's interested in the position and willing to fill it. And then Dwayne Jackson on planning and zoning, reappoint him for 4 years.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Miscellaneous matters from the mayor and or city council.
Coffee with the council this Saturday at 10 o'clock. Feel free to let everybody know, come by.
Anything else? Okay, Director of Finance report, Marcel.
There's
You've been,
there's lots of information there. It's what we have to date for the month of October. We've started out the year relatively well. I'm pleased to see and hope that we continue to maintain that upward trend for at least the sales tax revenue. You know, some of the other revenues may not be coming in quite as high, but those continue to be an upward trend, and right now are meeting budget quite well.
back down to okay, city manager, Danielle.
Now, so first, I would just ask if any of the other directors have anything they want to share with council this evening. Okay.
I will say
Okay.
on that though, directors, there's a lot of good work going on. And so it's nice when you share it because we actually do go out and share it. So I'm not trying to put pressure on you, but I really am. All right, Danielle.
So I have nothing to add to my report. However, I did want to follow up. We did a work session and we presented on the American Rescue Plan Act. And we were presented on solid waste management in the city. And so just wanted to ask council if there was any feedback from those two presentations after you've had an opportunity to hear the presentations and then think about it over the last couple weeks.
No feedback specifically. I do know that I've been out talking with different folks in the community about the presentation on the Rescue Act, so, but I don't have what I would consider enough. When do you expect to kind of start putting some of those pieces in? When do we have to?
Sure. So we did, I did reach out to Suzanne Taylor at the chamber just to try to see, see what our business owners and our businesses in the community, how they were feeling about, that $500,000 that we had allocated to that code compliance grant. Suzanne was very positive about it, and she said she would, kind of walk around and talk to her community about that. So we are continuing to gather information there. There was a new, the Senate passed a bill that would actually allow us to use American Rescue Plan Act for general services. It has not made it through the House yet or has not been signed yet, but that may change our strategy quite a bit with the American Rescue Plan Act. So if you are feeling, very strongly about any of these particular projects, or if you feel, if the code compliance grant is something you're very interested in, if you've heard conversations out in the community that, businesses are really interested in that, we probably need to make a decision because we know that's going to take some time to put that program together, but also just with any sub-grantee, trying to get those, bids in, contractors in. We do think that one will take some time to manage and make sure that we have those funds expended by, or at least obligated by 2024. The rest of them, we feel we can act on those pretty quickly. The other thing with the solid waste, our recommendation on that was to try to find funds and try to start working on an updated solid waste study so that we could update the solid waste plan. And I think if we could, have consensus from the city council at this time that that's the direction they want staff to move forward with, is starting to work on a solid waste study. Again, we would start researching funding sources, see if we could find a grant to pay for that. And if not, we would budget for it in the next FY.
I definitely think we should move forward with the study. Just, that's always been my.
We're gonna need to do the study to have a coherent plan. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the solid waste district probably has some money laying around there to help this, so squeeze them hard, Marcella.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got consensus to move ahead with study, Danielle.
Sounds good. Thank you. And of course, you all will be kept up to date on, what our progress is on that. The other final thing is just a reminder that we have a joint Parks and Rec and City Council board meeting on November 17th. Danielle Fessler sent out the agenda and we will get that posted to the website pretty shortly, but there is a survey link in there to share what your expectations are. We felt like it was really important to kind of talk through that piece of it, but just get that out on paper, get that out in front of everyone. So if you could please just take a few minutes to respond to that survey link, we would greatly appreciate it. We will be serving dinner at that, so we will start at 6:30 on the 17th. Are there any questions about the joint Parks and City Council meeting?
Doesn't look like it.
And then finally, we will not be having a meeting on November 22nd. So that will be the Monday before Thanksgiving. So this will be the last time you all are together until December. So I'd like to wish you all happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you.
Now, I guess I'll see you on the 17th.
That's true. Anything else for the good of the community? Then I'm going to adjourn the meeting.